Hello and welcome, everybody. Today is December, what are we at? The 16th, 2025. And we're here focused on a Digital World Town Hall meeting. Thank you for taking the time and for caring. That's sometimes all we need to do is really just care. Today we'll focus on the prior updates for the last week, and then we'll focus on any kind of Q&A that folks have live. We'll also go through what's happening in the world. There's a 6-minute review of it that really does a good job of spelling things out. So we're grateful for those that are actually here, whether they're co-hosts. And as a reminder, this is a private membership association. Some of the things we might talk about are definitely forward-looking. And we'll go ahead and have an opening prayer by a dear friend and a wonderful human being, and definitely in the middle of all of this, even though he's not with us every single week, but he is with us today. And so Bryson will go ahead and open us up with a prayer. Bryson, it's all you, bud.
Our Father in heaven, we come before thee as a group today with a special feeling in our hearts and a dedication and a presence to see forward the things that we desire to see in this world, the good things. May 2026 be a year of repentance, restitution, and resolution, that we may come together in our lives personally, both professionally, and understand thy will and how we might come together to produce the things in this world that need to happen so that we may see the world that we want our children to participate in, a world of love and compassion and progress. Father, we ask thee that thou might bless us with thy spirit, and that we may have a good understanding of what is spoken to tonight, and how we may each individually participate in building this world that we want to see together. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. It's good to hear your voice. It really is. For those that may not be aware, the digital world focuses on a counterbalance to centralized systems and secret combinations, namely those that focus within an environment of technology, but it spans into other parts of the world, whether it's media, insurance, health, pharmaceutical, oil, transportation, you name it. There's a lot of different private and secret combinations that work within the world and have for generations, not just decades and decades, but for many, many just dispensations of time. And in many ways, they oppress others, they control others. And some think that that's normal, some think that there's not a big deal to it, but there needs to be a counterbalance to it. And that is what the digital world is here and focused on. For some of you that may be tuning in and think, well, these guys work on clear companies and technologies and decentralization. You're right, because decentralization is actually what enables this to become a reality. And those clear companies focus on different parts and pieces of decentralization. This work is imperative that people, society, humanity, future generations all have choice. Choice, whether it's centralized systems or decentralized systems. And I'm not talking about the cryptos that you may be familiar with, Ethereum, Solana, even elements of Bitcoin. Most of these are supposed decentralized technologies that have really been centralized, whether it's from a governance standpoint or a technology standpoint. We're not talking about crypto or the ecosystems of what crypto means, crypto meaning cryptography or math. We're talking about the ability for a counterbalance of these secret combinations and centralized systems to truly have an alternative in parallel to what these centralized systems do within humanity. Some of you may still be scratching your head and saying, I don't understand what this is. And I'm going to drop to a video really fast, and I'm just going to try and have it explained to you from other folks that is like right in our face in real time. And a lot of this may feel like it's repetitive, but it's crazy to see how many people really don't understand it. 6% of the world is using crypto in some form, 26% now inside the United States in 2025. But it's not about crypto. It's not about a transaction. It is about identity. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that now.
Need a real ID to travel by air? Politicians push government IDs, and many want more. Will we become like Europe? There, many politicians push government-mandated digital IDs that tie your identity to nearly everything you do.
putting an end to anonymity.
You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID.
Many American tech leaders like it too. The second richest man in the world is blunt about why.
Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
We want everyone to be a sheep and just conform and toe the line and never push back. That is a recipe for disaster and totalitarianism.
Naomi Brockwell, who runs this tech privacy channel, says government mandated digital IDs are dangerous.
Privacy is not about hiding. It's about an individual's right to decide for themselves who gets access to their data. And what a digital ID will do is it will strip individuals of that choice.
A lot of countries are already imposing these digital IDs. You have the UK, Australia, Switzerland.
Switzerland will introduce an electronic ID.
Is this the wave of the future?
This is the way of the entire globe, all moving towards centralized data hubs. That gets really scary for individual liberty.
I already have a government issued ID. Why is a digital one worse?
It connects everything, your financial decisions to your social media posts, to your likes, to the things that you're watching, to the places that you're going. You won't be able to voice things anonymously online anymore. Everything you say will be tied back to who you are.
Governments do say they have a good reason for it.
The Prime Minister believes this is an important weapon in his armoury to tackle illegal immigration.
It's going to save us all and we'll be happier and we'll have rainbows and sunshine forever. And the problem is they end up being tools for control.
But digital ID backers say the new ID will make things easier for us.
It means that you can access your own money, make payments so much more easily.
These digital IDs will just be so convenient.
Really convenient until they're not. Until those services start saying, no, you can't use our system.
Hundreds of police officers moved in on protesters in Ottawa.
We've already seen governments do just that.
If your truck is being used in these protests, your corporate accounts will be frozen.
Even without a digital ID, Canada was able to punish truckers who protested COVID vaccine mandates.
They locked up my personal and trucking business accounts.
With a digital ID, politicians could do that much more easily.
You're essentially putting a giant target on every aspect of your life, bundling it all together, wrapping up in a nice bow and saying, here, if you want to control me, just untie this. That's essentially what a digital ID is.
Now, in the US,
You have states already voting to put permission slips in front of websites to say you need to provide government documentation before you can access this social media platform.
Now you need an ID to watch porn, but no ID to vote.
proponents say this will protect kids.
Age verification is the best way to protect children from online harms.
Unfortunately, politicians just can't promise that it will only ever be used for that. You always have governments with these great sounding bills that are called the let's stop all the bad people doing all the bad things bill. And people say, well, I want to stop all the bad people doing all the bad things. But what they're voting for is a system of control and oppression.
Elites seem excited about this control.
It is very necessary for financial services, but not only.
Sure.
You know, it's also good for school enrollment. It's also good for health, who actually got a vaccination or not.
All of the books you want to read and the things you want to eat and the places you want to go, all of this suddenly becomes part of a permissioned system. And you will be ranked based on past activities that you've undertaken and choices that you've made.
China already does that.
Everywhere she goes, Ouyang Haoyu is followed. What she buys, how she behaves, is tracked and scored.
Some Chinese people claim they like it.
I think being ranked is a good thing.
It forces us to be well behaved.
If they're not,
The cinema names and shames people considered untrustworthy, plastering their details, even their addresses, across big screens.
those with low social credit scores can be denied entry into schools or lose access to travel.
He tried to buy a train ticket and was told he was banned from traveling.
Do we look like China? No.
It's a reason some Europeans resist these IDs.
Everybody knows that if you have all of your information in one place, then you are a slave. You have no freedom of privacy, no freedom of speech, no freedom of nothing.
It makes you super easy to target. It makes you super easy to silence if suddenly you become problematic. Whoever controls that data has a lot of power, and we're simply handing it to them. People need to be aware that they have no control over who will get access to this tool and who will control this tool in future.
Facebook, Google, Chase Bank, They already have my data. Shouldn't I trust my government more?
Governments, unlike companies, can throw you in jail.
You sound like a conspiracy theorist.
It's not conspiracy, it's already happening.
This is one of 30 arrests a day for social media posts.
In Great Britain, politicians already arrest people for speech they don't like. And sadly, the US is moving in that direction. All right, but this is America. We're not going to become China.
We are skyrocketing towards that direction. The surveillance infrastructure we're trying to put in place in the United States is heading directly towards where China currently is.
So what can we do about it?
People need to be reminded that they're empowered to actually affect that change. They can reach out to representatives. They can push back, protect themselves, and not build this infrastructure in the first place.
Exactly. Because once we hand politicians that power, they can use it for anything.
So I hope that that actually painted a little bit of a picture for you, at least from a standpoint of the problem. So it's very real, even though we've been doing this every Tuesday for many, many years, and many folks have been building this for 17 plus years. There's a lot of complexities to it. One of our listeners today from our live audience, the actual gentleman that actually gave the prayer, understands the storage component of it. And he dedicated his life to actually building this layer out in a very material way. That layer sits, well, I should say it is in line based upon identity with finance or transactions. And then we're layering communications, assets, endorsements, governance, and services on top of that. Many of you may look at that and say it doesn't make sense, but we're going to talk about why it does and find that nice balance for humanity and how all that plugs together. The simple reality is you get 12 words, you link those 12 words with different things in your world. Some people call it identity. It combines many different parts of the web, of databases, of systems, of apps, whether it's passwords or apps or health or finance, or maybe it's companies, or maybe it's data, or maybe it's something around an estate that you want to pass to a next generation. There are all keys that basically combine derived keys with other keys where artificial intelligence can't follow you. And one of the big things that we're focused on today and this last week is how do we actually tie that together with some of the goals that are going to be forward for 2026. We're going to report out on 2025 goals as the digital world connects the physical and the digital together. And the Clear companies focus on a couple different things. This last year, it was 5 different areas. Exchanges, we ended up with 7. Our goal was 5. Phones, we missed the launch in October. We've got a lot of things that are stacking up for a beautiful, beautiful revamp this next 2026 year. Clear Homes, over $1 billion in pre-orders. Clear Autos has stood up and some of the lines and systems are set up. And then the Clear Community, beautiful things that we'll talk a lot about as this next slide takes shape. The next slide ties directly to what we call Life, or a digital asset called ClearCoin or LifeCoin that ties to the individuals being able to take over their own life that's digital and combine that with really how they've historically operated, as well as the future will operate, and how that ties into what we call Life Bond. I'll go ahead and drop out and kind of show that to you here in a second. The bond component of it, the reserve component of it, all tie into an environment that we're focused on with goals within 2026. It's crazy. It's weird to say that year, but when we look at these different layers, they're the layers that focus in on the digital world. So it's the same architecture, same technologies, but the individual first focused around their own life and verifying and validating who they are. Then you've got transaction layers. Many of you in the world would know it in maybe 3 different formats. 1, currencies and reserve currencies. 2, Wall Street, stocks, commodities, equities, bonds, that and how they connect in with currencies. And then cryptography, or what I was talking about before, where people would talk about, different types of crypto-based assets, Ethereum, Bitcoin, Litecoin, etc. This is the future of that, but based upon identity first. and then linked into storage, and then other layers that are very, very important and material: assets, communications, endorsements, governance, and services. Here in the state of Utah, we've been able to have the opportunity for endorsements to take front and center stage, as the chief privacy officer basically says, we do not control the creation of identity, the individual does. The parents do at birth, at conception, whatever their beliefs are. And then that links into an endorsement with the state that can verify who the individual is, and then they can transact, they can hold their own assets as they wish. It's very, very important. But we're going to talk a little bit about, or a lot about, life in this new 2026 year and how it all comes together, how it literally, it enables the individual to be able to be private. It will tie to different things that if you didn't get in on the base level of Bitcoin and are sitting here thinking, I wish I would have understood it, I wish I could have gotten involved in it. When it came out in a little bit earlier in the year 2008, officially being the first block launched in 2009, January, you're literally on the precipice of something just as important, but everyone can actually get involved in it. You can prove who you are. You can own who you are through proving you're alive, through this life-based asset that we're talking about. You know, it'll come around the world in different flavors, different jurisdictions, but ultimately what the digital world represent and what we're talking about is an infrastructure where people can basically standardize services, whether it's around identity or contacts or forensics or taxes or mortgages or all the different things that we basically do, but how we can do it across the world with multiple different parts of the world saying, we'll use that standard. For those of you that don't remember, many of the team members, at least the leadership team, went to the BRICS countries before COVID ever came about, except for Brazil. There's different phases that are this approach is first phase in the Pacific. Second phase is basically environments that'll tie to the Pacific. We'll talk a lot about that, but it's very important, very real. And as we dig into some of the details as this goes around the world, it's setting the groundwork for something that will actually last a full millennium. We're not just talking about the shift between 2025 and 2026, which we're in the end of, like literally 3 weeks away. We're talking about something much, much bigger. It's not just widespread and validation adoption that starts in 2026, but how integration into other systems that actually start using the authentication, how it actually links the world together with transactions, and it lasts a millennium. Literally, this system is architected to last well over 1,000 years. And it's not just one of those new software stacks that says, hey, you know, let's build this, let's raise some money off a business plan, let's go ahead and get some adoption and then sell it or go public and hope they continue to grow. This is something that has much more staying power, much more vision, and it really is something that will make a difference for humanity. As we dig to it, one of the big announcements that we would like to discuss is around what we call this life bond, which basically links us all together in a very unique and important way and connects with what we call life reserve, which is one of the actual core focus for 2026 and what we will focus on driving adoption and involvement for anyone in the world. So this particular life bond is something that is going to be released this next week. We've actually reviewed it this last week and gotten a baseline approval. There was some feedback that we had to go through and actually modify. This will be a press release that will go out within the next 48 hours. And it will be specifically with one of the Clear companies, Clear Finance, that will actually purchase different assets using life reserves, namely the life bond, which basically ties to, in my opinion, a form of how we can actually replace what the world, or at least America, knows as Social Security, where everyone can actually be able to have freedom, financial freedom, how it will actually shift from one generation to another, and it won't have systems in the middle of it, and it will use a very well-known system that humanity's been involved with. And let me tell you a little secret. A lot of the different secret combinations that we were talking about, this is actually how they not only create wealth and pass wealth, but preserve wealth. So how the Rockefellers, et cetera, the Kennedys, how they actually use life insurance or life settlement to actually push assets from one generation to the next generation. And this particular announcement talks about how Clear Finance, Clear Management will basically work with a publicly traded company, Sundance Strategy, under SUND, to be able to do certain things. And I'll let them, I'm not going to push the rest of this release, but the net is there is a lot of opportunity for the world to be able to understand not just bonds or reserves, but actually become a very big part of the future systems. It's not just something for the few, but where everyone can actually get involved. There'll be a document you'll be able to read. You know, we're not going to spell it out this year, but there's some beauty in what happened. I think that the folks, I know that the folks that were and are behind Bitcoin, the technology, the deployment, literally were very brilliant in how they just said, hey, this is what the plan is. And again, this happened October, November, and then in January was actually when it went live. So there's some hints for those that are actually paying attention, for those that want to tune in. I know that there's some very loyal followers that tune in every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. And it's not a matter of you have to be in the right place at the right time, but sometimes, especially when we live in confusing times, being able to be connected to the right things, it spreads like wildfire, just like some of these other things did in life. But with that being said, those are some of the things that we're focused on. You know, this particular week, it's revolved around the digital life. I'll go through a couple other little things that are actually, currently there's a process where the digital world is not only working with different service providers, namely Clear Software, to stand up Aotearoa and the New Zealand environment, but also potential systems within that. I won't go through the details, but you need to know that that is moving around. Also, just a general review, like the world is starting to figure out that there's a big game that's being played, and transparency and honesty of systems that everyone can be a part of is actually what's going to help to set us free. Financial systems, currency systems, Wall Street systems, even crypto systems are built on a lot of centralized secret combinations. People would say, no, crypto systems are pretty transparent. Well, are there liquidity pools? Are they fictitious or are they real? Where do they come from? Are there market makers? Are those fictitious or real? Where do they come from? And so when we look at this new system, the goal is to have true liquidity, real time, and to be able to have people from all different parts of the world come together, add value, love one another. I mean, in the core, that's a big portion of what this is all about. It's just loving one another. Bryson, I don't know if you're still on, but I think you're in this photo. You are right here.
Yep, I am. I'm cooking steak, so I'll jump off.
That's awesome.
I am in there.
That's awesome. So this was about 35 people that went down to New Zealand. It's been a long time, probably, I should say Aotearoa, probably 6 years ago. And there's some beautiful things that are actually starting to trigger within this environment, in this same room with these same folks this last week. Positive and negative. And, February will actually be a very key date for that. But this is an interesting quote that I saw this last week. Do not pray for tasks equal to your ability, but pray for abilities equal to your tasks. Then the performance of your task may be no miracle, but ye may be the miracle. And that comes from a man that I respect and love tremendously. This is an interesting statistic this last week. Another interesting statement. Won't go through it. Some interesting advancements. You can pay attention. And then certain marketing realities or market realities based upon what's happening, statistics and data, homes, buyers, sellers. For those of you that may be very concerned, don't be. Why? Because we're all in this together and you're actually listening and seeing a potential solution to it. I won't even talk about this, but it's important to document it as well as this. This last week, Charlie Kirk and an event that he has, this America Fest, was this week last year. I was actually invited to be involved in that. Wonderful folks, and it's a very different environment. I saw that Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica Kirk, had a meeting. I don't know what it's about, but you know, the reality is there's a lot of confusing things going on in the world, but it's a beautiful time to be alive. It really is. You don't have to have the gloomsday reality on what's happening, even when it's like, hey, they want to control this and that and do this, and there's crazy, you know, it's just try and see the beauty that is right in front of us. You know, folks may look at these things and say, 2008, you know, there was a massive crash right here and a massive correction right here. And now we're at another level of it. But please don't just look at the statistics and the data and what the price tags are. I know every time you go and spend $1 somewhere, it's like, wow, we used to measure those in hundreds, and I just did that in thousands. But I guess the net is kind of like what they spell out here. In the 80s, everyone wanted to go to the future. Now we all want to go back to the 80s. I'd say the 80s were amazing, but I think that we're living through a time and dispensation when we're actually a part of something that can actually create a path that provides choice. And when we were provided choice, we're given freedom. There's another statement. I don't know if we'll get to it, but a gentleman that I do not respect, but I need to understand, talked a lot about, even in scripture, where it talked about slaves, and that slaves has been a natural part of humanity throughout generations of time. And I would say that there's no difference between what's happening today. So with that being said, let's be thankful. You know, we live in a time that is just amazing to be alive. And, you know, those are basically the general instances of this last week, some of the topics. And I hope that you're seeing it. I hope that you're understanding what's happening, so to speak. So I'll go ahead and jump to our live audience. And if anybody's got questions, thoughts, comments, now is your time. Feedback, input, criticism. On the press release, there's not much more that I can talk about it, just because there's some things that are going to go live. But yeah, so now is your time. It's all you, sir.
You there, Michael?
Hey,
Yes, sir.
Michael, it's
Go for it.
Victoria.
Oh, yep, go,
Go ahead.
Victoria. Yep, go for it.
I was just gonna say, I mean, it's the holidays and there's so much going on in the world. I mean, I think we're all feeling it. And with the whole digital ID, and it's scary for a lot of people. And what hope can clear companies give, like, just the average Joe? I mean, I see the value in having a digital ID through clear companies, but I don't know if everybody really realizes what that means.
It's a very good statement and question. You know, to be honest with you, as we've dedicated our lives and time and efforts and systems and features and functions, that's really been one of my biggest epiphanies, is how much people don't see it, and how much people, they want a solution when they think that there is a problem, but how really marketing and PR and spinning things are such a big part of the problem and the solution. And it's been eye-opening. And Bryson, I hope you're listening to that, because, you know, historically, marketing, PR, it's been something that has always been second, whereas features and functions and tech and integration has always taken a pole position or a first seat, so to speak. But it's interesting to see how many people just don't even understand the problem. And if they do, they've been fed a line, because to be honest with you, the competitors on this have unlimited budget. Literally, they make money out of nothing. Naked short selling is how Wall Street took over the currency system. And the currency system, you know, when it lost its gold standard long ago, it lost the standard. So, you know, to be a reserve as far as a currency, in my opinion, it's not even gold, it's the measurement. It's something more simple and beautiful than that. But actually having people seeing the problem is a big part of it. So go ahead.
Michael, this is Bryson. I agree. One thing that I was thinking about and processing as you were talking was that it really just takes one person to invite one other person, a close friend, family member, somebody that is generally interested in these topics, to grow one by one. And as that process takes root and we share it with people, you know, this message that Michael's talked us through, as we share that with friends and family, one turns into a million, turns into multiples very, very quickly. But it takes the dedication of the individual to share that message just with one person, and it can grow very quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very wise words there.
Hey, Michael, I've got a question. If you can hear me.
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. So it's about the finance layer. So when we exchange native for goldbacks, do we see the vaulting process the same as goldbacks do when we purchase goldbacks from Alpine Gold and they vault the goldbacks? So when we buy goldbacks with native coin in the digital world market, is the vaulting process the same?
Great question. Really, really
I
good
hope that
question.
answered it.
That's a super duper question. And what's funny is we had the founder of Goldbacks, I should say Alpine Gold Exchange, and the president / CEO and 3 or 4 other of their team members on this last week, a couple different times. And we actually went through, let's see if I can. So if we go into, let's jump into this asset right here. Actually, I don't want to go there. I want to go. Let's look at this particular asset here. So this is a digital version of what you were calling Goldbacks. And let's jump into a different, let's see. I know that there can be trades on some of these. Let's see here. This is also the same type of thing, but this is from a different vendor. So if it's from Alpine Gold Exchange and you're logged into Alpine Gold Exchange, there should be 1-to-1 in physical or digital assets there. And the pricing should be basically the same. When you're trading them in, there may be a percentage, or when, let's see, not when you're trading them in, but if you're taking them out, if you're cashing them in. So if you're actually doing a transaction that is going from Goldbacks here over to like whatever currency, in the case of the US, because that's where most of their facilities are, you basically have a different percentage that will take out there. So the simple answer is, if you're using Alpine Gold Exchange's system with their Goldbacks, there should be 1-to-1. If other partners are actually peering with them, it would also be 1-to-1. And if I remember right, and Adam, you can weigh in on this if you feel inclined or appropriate, if there is a third party that's basically vaulting it. So for instance, what if it's not with Goldbacks? What if it's with, for instance, the same asset as that particular asset there is right here? So what if there's a different reserve other than Goldbacks and you have the physical? There should be that physical side of it, because that's the goal within the digital world. This is different than the crypto world. You have real-time liquidity, but there's real assets that are on the other side of it. It's not the crypto world where a lot of it's just speculation. It's not the Wall Street world, where I won't even spell that one out for those people that don't understand naked short selling and some of the things that are happening there. And it's not the currency world where they just create it out of nothing. This is an environment where you should have real world assets that back it. And that's one of the things that some of the holding environments actually will go through and verify, validate, audit with third parties, and then insure. And in some cases, for instance, I would argue that within this environment, these guys have, especially, maybe it's, let's use not even gold, or gold backs. Let's say that it's normal gold. Okay. So this type of an asset, they actually have auditors, insurers that back those types of vaulting services. So this is like a 1 ounce piece of silver, for those of you that can't see it, looks something like this, versus something that you can actually spend that looks something like this. So very different assets, but the basis of your question fits for both of them. And that's where each one of these vendors or merchants are going to get a rating and an index. And for those of you that remember, within the digital world, I think we actually added it under the governance and legislation. There is a type of rating that is currently being pushed through the legislative process. I don't see it here, but it's kind of like the Moody's rating inside of the United States of America, or I guess Standard & Poor, or, it depends on what part of the world you're in, but it's a type of rating system, so to speak. So does that answer your question?
No, it doesn't.
Clarify
But
it for me.
you did answer some other questions that were going on in my head. So just to be clear, if we exchange native to goldbacks, is the vaulting process the same that Alpine Gold do? Like, how do they get notified, I guess, that we've purchased goldbacks? Are they immediately notified the same way that we might purchase goldbacks from Alpine Gold?
Okay, so let me see if I can restate the question. So if you want to go from native, which is a different animal, because not everything native is going to actually transfer into other environments. So for instance, if we go to this asset environment and we say we want to take USD, you can see the different trading pairs that it will trade with. Like you can convert DUSD into DBTC if you want to go that route, or into DGBX, which is the gold backs that I was just showing you earlier. So if you want to convert them, you can. It's a simple click, scan. I'll actually, for those that may be seeing this for the first time, I'm opening up the Clear Life app. It may be a different Life app in your own jurisdiction with whatever base currency you have. You validate 5-factor authentication, and this transaction is going to transfer something digital into something that it represents physical, but can be transferred in the digital. So that you can see down here in the bottom right, this has actually been consummated, and you can see the assets actually went over. But what you were asking is native. And you'll notice that native does not have any trading pairs. And there's a reason for that. Native is an asset that actually transfers in and runs the digital world. So if you want to create a company, if you want to create an asset, like let's say we wanted to create a new asset for this company, you actually pay native, okay? Now, what's really important and what's happened actually this last week, I'll go ahead and pull this up. I'm going to jump into some slides. I'm going to jump into a certain type of relationship. This was on Saturday. I received a phone call from some very influential people on their private jet, blah, blah, blah. I've never actually received an inbound call like that from folks I didn't know, but basically, we're talking about the digital world, Clear, Exodus, how they work together, how they link, how you can actually connect with the digital world, how the digital world compares to other systems, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Solana, etc. But namely, how native is actually that bridge gap and stop gap on how it can actually tie to other systems. And so a lot of the conversation was around native and how Native can actually link to other third-party crypto wallets. For those of you that are not aware, the crypto ecosystem is different than the digital world ecosystem. You can have different jurisdictions, you can log into it, you can have different systems, whether it's your car, whether it's a license, whether it's a registration, whether it's a birth certificate, a marriage certificate, different wallets, all of these different things literally tied to this. And so how those systems interact and how they work is going to be different, especially when you're talking about that native asset. Did I answer your question this time, or do you want to expound on it?
Yeah, no, thank you, Michael. Danielle, we will get together after this and update your ClearPay wallet, because what we did, Michael, and I know that we are like very early adopters, and we're probably like at the bleeding edge of it. But the trading pair from Native to the Goldbacks, from what I understand, Danielle, it worked, didn't it?
Yes, it did. I swapped some Native for Goldbacks because I just wanted to try it and see if it did anything, and it did.
Yeah,
it
so
worked.
if you're logged in, for instance, I must not be logged in. So let me notice how there's no trading book or trading pairs, or let's jump into Native. Native has a lot of activity because people have to actually buy this. So you'll notice it's really had a solid, stable, consistent run, so to speak. And
yes.
Because there's a consistent usage. Now, there's not a lot of people selling it. I wonder why. But there's a lot of people that are offering to buy it. And that's really, if you want, so if we looked at Native and you guys are trying to transfer it, I don't know if it's into this one. Yeah, so there's no trading pairs here.
It wasn't that one, Michael. It was just the
This one here.
GBX.
Yeah, so if people actually want to buy or sell, if there's offers that are out there, they can, this is a decentralized exchange. Anyone can buy and sell at any price. It is true fair market value. And the individuals actually own their own assets that are tied to this. So
my DGBX, is it backed by the Goldback, by a Goldback?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And where is that Goldback held? Where is it?
This one's actually held in the digital reserve environment, which is actually partnered up with, and that was the call that we actually had this last week with the Alpine Gold Exchange. And the conversation was actually around this exact topic, around how do we actually work together, and how does the vaulting process work? What if people want to take delivery? Who ships? How's all that stuff work? So
okay, so that hasn't been determined yet. But if I called Alpine Gold, are they going to tell me that, oh yeah, we have your Goldbacks here?
It'll have to be under whatever account that you're tied to. So it's whichever one. So for instance, we've just looked at two of them. So if you're with Alpine Gold, they would be able to do that. If you're within the digital reserve, then they would be able to do that as well. So you just reach out in that same way. The goal is to actually not have a reach out process. There's a digital representation that assets are actually held within it. And then it should be a cryptographic process is what it should be. And then
no, I was just wondering, like, okay, so I have a digital Goldback, but where's the physical Goldback? Where is it being held? I was just wondering. I have no intentions of moving it, taking it out, nothing like that.
Yeah, Goldbacks can be held by everybody, because everybody becomes the bank with Goldbacks. People actually hold them, buy them, sell them, push them around, vault them. With Gold Eagles, that's where we start. That's actually the conversation we're having with Alpine Gold, is actually working with them to vault it and ship it and insure it. So, yeah.
Okay, so I have another question, Michael. I'm sorry, but I'm not a finance person. But if Native, okay, so all I'm hearing right now is how the U.S. dollar, the powers that be want to collapse the U.S. dollar, blah blah blah. So my understanding is that Native is pegged to the U.S. dollar, correct?
No, Native is not pegged to the U.S. dollar. It's just the opposite. So here, I'll pull that up again. So if we look at Native and then we look at DUSD, which is basically pegged to the US dollar, you're going to see a balance shifting up. So if it were pegged to the US dollar, it would kind of be like what this one is here, where it's flat. Okay. 1 to 1.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
Native is not flat. If anything, it's it's seeing some solid continued growth, primarily because native is what runs the digital world, and it's very consistent. So, but it's
Okay.
still very minuscule. The volume on it is very small. You know, we're talking 130,000, 127,000. Whereas if you take something like Bitcoin or DBTC, you know, we're talking $42 billion in the last 24 hours. Very different animal. But it's also had 17 years to mature too.
Well, yeah, we're on the ground floor.
Yeah. Not only are we on the ground floor, but that transaction that I just did, Bitcoin can't do. Number one, it's not private. Number two, it's not real time. Period. So.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Great
Thank you.
questions. Any other thoughts, comments, feedback, concerns, criticism, observations? If not, we still have a couple minutes. I will play a crazy video, and this is actually a lot of the problem side of it, but I think it's important for us to understand the problem side of it and not just think that, you know, we just look at one perspective per se. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what this is against and what the actual balance of this is actually the counterbalance to.
There is no mechanism, for instance, in Christianity or Judaism, to identify and correct mistakes in the Bible. I'm not talking just about, you know, factual mistakes, also moral mistakes. The Bible, the Ten Commandments, for instance, endorses slavery. The 10th commandment says that you should not covet your neighbor's field or your neighbor's ox or your neighbor's slaves.
This is what I was trying to tell you earlier around how, and in some cultures, it's just thought, you know, in certain, and I won't be specific, in some cultures, it's just thought that, you know, slavery is normal, or it's okay if you're of this skin color or this belief system, that lying is okay or justified, or that certain things will happen after a certain death. By the way, I do think it would be wonderful, whoever wraps up the closing prayer, if we remember those that have passed away this last week down in Australia. It's never a positive thing to see that type of a tragedy, but when we look at life, it all comes around choices, and how he gets to the place and perspective that he has comes from choices. It comes from environments that you're put into. You know, the lifestyle that he lives, I personally don't agree with. But that doesn't mean that we've got a right to be able to take away that choice that he has or that others have. And when we start talking about or listening to some of the things that he's going to spell out, it's very important to understand the black and white choice versus no choice.
According to the 10th commandment, God has no problem with people owning slaves. He just has a problem with people coveting the slaves of somebody else. No. That's not good. Now, even today, with everything that have changed since these words were written in the first millennia BCE, there is no mechanism to correct the text of the Bible. Now, for the first time in history, there is another entity, there is another agent out there that can create stories, economic theories, new kinds of currencies, music, poems, images, videos, and this new entity is AI. I'm Yuval Noah Harari. I'm a professor of history at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and the author of Nexus, a history of information networks from the Stone Age to AI.
And he's a lot more than that. He is one that helped architect a lot of these secret systems that we're currently fighting against and many other things. But he has choice.
Michael, it's crazy to me how they market all of this. It's just wow.
It really, that's spot on. You know, it's actually amazing to see how they figured it out, and how the comment that I made earlier is so relevant. Like we've actually got to do a very good job of marketing, and not just marketing, but public relations, and how that actually ties to people's realities and what they can see. There's a ton of people that are just trying to do good and to tell truths and find solutions, but those that actually get adopted are few and far between. But this stuff was actually, elements of this was actually stated within this last week, and that's one of the reasons why I think it's important to bring this up. But we'll go ahead and continue.
And you know, the acronym AI traditionally stood for artificial intelligence. But I think it's more accurate to think about it as an acronym for alien intelligence.
Now, that's a perfect example. That is marketing around a coin phrase that PR, or public relations, will then push on. Just like what he just said, that one sentence is exactly what I'm talking about. And it's a game.
Because artificial, it gives the impression that this is an artifact that we create and control. And AI, with every passing year, AI is becoming less and less artificial and more alien, in the sense that we can't predict what kind of new stories and ideas and strategies it will come up with. It thinks, it behaves in a fundamentally alien way. Think what it would mean to live on a planet which is increasingly shaped by the stories and the products of an alien intelligence. There are, of course, huge risks when power shifts from organic humans to these alien inorganic AIs. It just becomes more and more difficult for us to understand the decisions that shape our life.
Did you just see how he literally took the word artificial intelligence and switched it to alien intelligence? And do you see how it's an attack on the human mind? Do you see how what they did earlier with the COVID-19 reset plan, how, and here in another couple sentences, they'll actually show you the book, which I showed you last week, and how that literally was an attack, not on the mind or the emotions or the spirit or the heart, but the physical body through an intravenous injection, which if there's something in it or not, it's still there.
AI can create new ideas, can even write a new Bible. We, throughout history, religions dreamt about having a book written by a superhuman intelligence, by a non-human entity. Every religion claims our book, all the other books of the other religions, humans wrote them. But our book, no. It came from some superhuman intelligence. In a few years, there might be religions that are actually correct. That just think about a religion whose holy book is written by an AI. That could be a reality in a few years.
You see what just happened there? Like literally, he just talked about a book that had statements from others, shifted it to AI, artificial intelligence, shifted it to alien intelligence, shifting that to an author of future Bible type studies. This book down on the bottom, this COVID-19, the Great Reset, that's the physical attack on the human body. What we're talking about here is a spiritual attack. And what I would argue with all of you is everything is created spiritually before it's created physically. Everything created spiritually is created physically, or everything created physically is created spiritually before it's created physically. I hope I didn't say it too many times and confuse you, but it's really true. And that's one of the reasons why we go through these meetings and we post these photos and we go through these conversations, is because we have to actually put it out there. You'll see this happen within Hollywood as well. These movies that they do, you see things before they actually happen. You wonder why. That's how these secret combinations work. There's rules that are amazing that this universe operates on, and truth and consistencies, but the spiritual creation, the power of, whether you want to call it intention. I know we all have different religious beliefs, and that's not what this is something to push folks one way or the other, but we are spirits in physical bodies, no matter what individual we connect to or don't.
The nature of money is going to change quite dramatically. The old systems of trust and of ownership will have to adapt radically. Maybe the financial system will become so complicated as AI takes over more and more of the action that it will be just too complicated for the human mind. So how does a system functions when no human really understands it?
And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time.
You surprised? Surprised, Eddie? If I woke up tomorrow with my head sewn to the carpet, I wouldn't be more surprised than I am right now.
Well, and with that, happy holidays. This is a great time of year. I know these are some hard realities to sometimes face, but any thoughts or comments, feedback, observations, corrections, guidance that anyone wants to see? I would ask you for feedback and tuning of that press release, but that's one of the things, because we're dealing with a public company, that's one of the things we can't go through is the rest of the details, and then to have this particular audience, jump in the middle of that. But it is a press release that'll hit, and we look forward to everyone's involvement on it. So any other things people would like? Go ahead.
Can you put the link to that video that you showed at the beginning? Can you put the link in the chat? Is that possible?
It's actually a private one, but I can send it to you when we're done. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, what I'll do is I'll just open it up and send it out. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No worries.
Thanks, Michael.
I'll send you both of them. Any thoughts, comments, feedback, observations, corrections, anything that anyone wants to add? Okay. Victoria, would you wrap us up with a closing prayer today?
Absolutely, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Heavenly Father, creator of both our physical and digital worlds, as we come to a close in this meeting, we want to thank you for the opportunity to gather, albeit we are physically apart. Thank you for the technology and the connection of our voices and minds in our shared space here today. We're grateful for the wisdom, insight, and unity we have experienced in this discussion regarding the future of our community in this evolving digital age. As we prepare to leave this space, I ask for your continued guidance. I ask that the plans and decisions made here in the minds and hearts come to fruition and for the betterment of all. Please grant us the strength and integrity to serve our communities using the tools of this digital world to foster connection, understanding, and compassion. During this holiday season, Lord, please just give us the light and hope in our hearts, albeit heavy with darkness and tragedy. We want to lift up in prayer the families and loved ones from the horrific attacks in Australia this week, where communities who are celebrating the season were attacked. We mourn and grieve with those and pray for the healing of those who are injured and those who are going through loss, Lord. In a world where we're heavy with burdens, please remind us of that small, quiet light and power that we have inside each of us to illuminate the darkness. Please let us go forward in boldness and strength, love and grace as we step out into our lives, be it physical or digital. Protect us from harm, guide our steps, and fill us with your peace and joy. thank you for all that you've given and done for us and your goodness and your perfect plan that you have for us. In your name we pray.
Amen. Thank you for all joining and for your hearts and for your faith and believing in something that's not seen. And thank you for the listeners that may tune in from time to time and just try to understand and be a part of the solution. Like Bryson said, it only takes us to tell one other, and then they tell another, and it'll spread like wildfire when the right time is there. But we'll see you next week, and have a wonderful weekend. Goodbye, everybody. I should say a week. Have a wonderful week. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye, Michael. Thank you.